the most amazing wedding for a couple of my clients. Roz was their officiant. And it was such a beautiful ceremony. And she was an officiate for some other folks that we also, know and love. And she's just an extraordinary woman, and I watch her on Facebook all the time and see all these nuggets of beautiful things that she says, and I was like, "You know what? I gotta have her on the show because she's just so inspirational and she's so lovely that I couldn't wait to have her on." So let me tell you a little about her. Today's episode is 91. Can you believe we're at 91?
I don't even know. When did I start? Like, I don't know what episode it was, but 91 is
Over a year ago.
amazing.
I think you started in like July or August last year.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's so exciting. So today is finding peace in the midst of chaos. And you're going to meet Roz Clark. She is the Dream Doula. She's known as the Dream Doula because she helps.
Doula.
How do I say it?
Doula.
Doula, not doula.
Yes,
I
not
kind of
doula,
like
honey.
doula. No
I did,
kidding.
but it's doula.
Doula. Damn it. Can you tell I don't say that word very often?
Mhm.
Doula. So what she does is she helps high net worth women who feel trapped in their lives that they've created to reconnect with their dreams and build profitable businesses and brands doing what they truly love. For more than a decade, Roz has been teaching heart-centered visionary leaders how to tap into their inner strength and abilities to discover what is most important to them, to be brave enough to move beyond playing roles that leave them feeling empty, unappreciated, and unfulfilled. Now, that is a queen. That is a woman out there trying to help people shine. And today she's going to talk to us about finding peace in the midst of chaos. So let's bring on Roz and see her beautiful face.
Hey.
Hi, Roz.
Hi, Roz.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh my gosh, we are amazing. How are you?
I think you're amazing too. So I'm excited to be here with both of you. So that was a great way to put it because I'm super excited to be with you.
Well, we're
Aw.
happy. You're an extraordinary woman. And, for me, it's all about women empowerment and lifting each other up and supporting each other and really just trying to be there for good and bad times, like cheering each other on and lifting each other up when we need it. And I'm so excited that I live now in a generation of where we're doing that instead
Mhm.
of, pitting against each other, and you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I love this. Tell us more about what you do, Roz, because this is exciting being a Dream
Doula.
Doula. I learned how to say a word. Okay.
Yeah, just think doula.
Don't do what I say.
And so, that's a great question and a great observation. And you're absolutely right. I'm super excited about being in a place, in a space where we as women, can celebrate each other. And I think one of the reasons that we're doing it a little bit more is we found our voice.
Mhm.
We found who we are and how we show up in the world. And just the fact that I'm coming into a space with two women who support each other and have shared a dream and a vision. And you're on, episode 91, like 9 away from 100. Like, how cool is that? And so the work that I do as a dream doula, because traditionally doulas help women give birth physically, like they help women give birth to babies.
Ooh.
And so as a dream doula, I'm helping women to give birth to their dreams. And a lot of times, we as women, we do everything else for everyone else. And we keep putting ourselves last. We're either playing small because we don't want to rock the boat, or we're sacrificing ourselves because we're inherently givers and nurturers. And so We end up creating these lives that don't serve our highest good. It doesn't serve who we really want to be. And all of a sudden we're frustrated and we're angry and we're lashing out. And it's like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong? You know? And the thing is, we created that dynamic. And so when we can own our part in it, that's when we are able to take our strength back. And so the work that I do with women is saying, okay, let's look at where you are. Let's look at where you want to be. Let's talk about how we bridge the gap and like literally, how do we give birth to our dreams? And just to kind of stay with that analogy, like think about it. If you've given birth, the first thing you feel is discomfort. You know, when it's getting close to time to give birth, you're feeling this discomfort, which is an indicator that it's time for something new to press and pass through you. So instead of being upset about the discomfort, we can start looking at it from a place of, oh, wait, something's about to change. Something's about
I love it.
Yes.
You know, and so, you know, as a dream doula, I come up alongside of my clients and, you know, and sometimes it's literally talking them off the ledge, like, breathe. It's going, okay, come on, just breathe, you know. And then we work out a way that they can transition, you know, because like a lot of my women may be transitioning out of C-suites, or they're transitioning out of relationships, or they're going into that empty nesting stage. And so now there's time and room and space for them to begin to give birth to their dreams. So we breathe, we plan, and then we push.
I love that.
Oh, I love it.
I love that. I'm excited that there's somebody out there that inspires people or supports people in taking something like a dream and making it a reality, because there's so much of our lives growing up that we were told a dream is a dream, blah blah blah, do the practical thing, do the thing that makes you money, and a lot of people are in dead-end jobs and places that makes them miserable, and they come home and they're like blah, and they just sit in their chairs and have a beer and watch TV, and they don't really do anything with their lives that make them truly happy. And I love that there are people out there who are pushing people to rediscover really where they should be.
Yeah.
I'm actually very fascinated by the name, because it's so, I mean, I'm not going to age myself, but my youngest child is in his early 20s, and I had a doula and I didn't have like a normal I had a normal doctor, but they were just kind of watching everything that's going on. So the fact that you're talking about the process and the birth and the change is like amazing to me, because I mean, years ago, I went through that. So I think it's beautiful to use that for women and relationships and transformation. That is incredible.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. And it is, I mean, because we're constantly reinventing ourselves, you know, and I always say that we're either reconnecting with who we are or we're recreating who we want to become. So it's one or other. And so again, it's always this kind of birth process, this evolution, this creating a place and a space to become new again, you know. And I can use, like, for me in my life, I not too long ago walked away, actually right before or right around the time that I met Christine. I had walked away from a 30-year marriage because it had become extremely toxic and dysfunctional, and it just was 50 shades of crazy. Okay. It was that. And I was just like, you know what? When I got to 30, I was like, no, I'm not doing this for 30 more years. I'm just not going to do this. And so I ended up having to leave sooner than I anticipated, because things just got really dark and not clear, not safe, and all of that. And so I went through a period of having been in this kind of, high profile, high kind of wonderful looking world that people thought was like Shangri-La from the outside. And like I said, it was 50 shades of crazy on the inside.
Inside.
And so in leaving, I went through a period, 3 months of being homeless and
Mm.
reinventing and regrowing or recreating my life. And within a year's time, I was able to fly first class to Paris because I had turned, oh, I'm still here. I almost dropped out. Yeah, I had turned 21 in
Yeah.
Paris and hadn't been there
Woo!
since. And so I went back to Paris for my 60th birthday. It was a year later. I left when I was 59. It was my 60th birthday. And what I tell everybody is that I was celebrating my birth and my rebirth.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So I didn't have to stay attached to what I was,
Mhm.
and while there's a lot of work to be done, my being so intentional, and I think that that's one of the things that people pick up on me is I've done the work. I've done the work, all the work, the spiritual work, the breathing work, the yoga work, you name it. I've done the work because I did not want to carry that weight and that anger and all of those other things into the new and next part of my life.
That's
So I
so
had to be
smart.
intentional
Mhm.
about releasing and letting go. And I'm not saying that I was levitating the whole time I was doing it, because it was like, like this
That's
is
some
not.
hard ass work.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. The
Yeah.
work is just amazing and challenging and not easy. And yet what I will say is it's worth it. So,
Mm.
to your
Mhm.
point, like that whole imagery really resonated with me. Like, this is my rebirth. I get to come back. I get to go back and touch that 21-year-old girl who was filled with dreams and possibilities. I thought I was on track to have an international career as a classical soprano because I was there touring France singing.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
I came back to the States to continue to work on my craft. I got married. My second child was born with special needs.
Mm.
And so changed everything.
Mm.
And so I released that dream and, embraced, making sure that my child lived, and, he turned 30 this year.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So all of those things. And so it was worth it. And yet touching that version of me again, not trying to be 21 again,
Yeah.
yet touching that version of me again and honoring her dreams and incorporating her into the woman that I am now, and then moving forward in the way that I have. That was
Mm.
what the whole journey was for me.
I think that every woman in different stages of her life makes really amazing changes in itself. When you're 18, you're a new woman. When you're 21, things change. When they're 25, things change. When I was 30, massive changes. I changed again at some point in my 40s. I hit my 50s, and man, I hit my stride. And I think that, people change if they're open to change, have the possibilities to have their worlds just bust right open for them. And, that happened for me, during COVID. I found a whole new career, and I started this podcast, and this podcast changed my life. So it just, I feel you. I know where you're coming from, and I get that. And I think it's extraordinary. And I'm glad that you're out there helping other women and do the same thing. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
tell us, what do you think peace is? Define peace for us, and then tell us how do we find that type of peace when the world is chaos around us? Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
So, my working definition of peace, and you'll hear me say this a lot, because I'm a big believer in the power of words, that we get to speak our
Mhm.
life into being,
Manifesting,
yes,
go, go.
yeah,
Speaking it into existence.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes. And so, in saying that, for me, peace is always the pursuit of your best and highest good, that
Mhm.
I am pursuing the best and highest version of who I can be today in this moment. Am I showing up fully and authentically as myself? Am I showing up to serve? Am I sharing? Am I being truthful and authentic? So when I think that that is where the peace is, because we make peace with ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah.
And, like when we're talking about even manifesting, like we don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are. So
That's nice. I like that.
yeah, because and the beautiful thing about that is when shit is going left, the first thing we're like, well, why did they do that? And where did that come from? And da, 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 da. It came from you. You created this. You created, like I said, we created these lives. We took on these roles. We played these roles. And it doesn't mean that we have to judge them, because they served that version of who we were at the time. So this continual evolution of, okay, this doesn't serve me anymore, or, okay, I'm complete. Because a lot of times we think that change means that we did something wrong. And that's not always the case.
Right.
Sometimes we just did what we did and it's complete, and we get to move to next. And so when we're looking for peace, we won't find it. When we are generating or radiating peace, that's where it is, because it's like Dorothy and Oz. It was always with you, like you and Toto were cool. You just didn't know it. So knowing that the only way that I can find peace is to go within. And like I said, sometimes I have to make peace. I have to make peace with my choices. I have to celebrate the growth and the learning that I had in my choices. If they were poor choices, I get to forgive myself. And at the end of the day, I don't believe that there are any wasted experiences. I think that there are some higher vibrating experiences.
Yeah.
That in the low vibrating experience, it's not a wasted experience if we understand that if nothing else we learn, this is not for me. Like that part's not for me.
Right. I think we can learn more from our challenges and our failures, or whatever you want to call it, your tough times, the hard, the hard choices. I think we learn more from those than we learn from our successes. If you're always a winner, what are you learning?
Exactly.
Well, but I also think that you have to be open to that, because I myself have gone through being a single mother, going through a horrible divorce, going through a abusive marriage, raising my children. I had to be open to a different perspective. And I think sometimes it takes a lot to get there, right? Because we want instant gratification. We want like, why is it not working for me? So I think just being open to that is really, really, it's powerful.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think the other thing too is we want some judgment sometimes too, because it's like, this is so unfair. Like, it feels so unfair. And in a lot of times it is. And so like not being afraid, like when I talk about like, I'm not levitating all the time, I do the work to stay in that space as much as I can. And yet if I have that moment of saying, or, whatever I get to say to that person, about that person, whatever, like that is who I am. And that is what I'm feeling in this moment. And I'm not going to beat myself up for that. I'm not going to stay there. But if I pretend that I never get angry, if I pretend that I never fail, if I pretend that I love everybody, like that's bullshit.
I hate everybody.
There you go.
Actually, I don't. I should want to, but I don't.
I don't either.
I just don't want to deal with. That's why I'm so specific in the clients that I serve. Like I don't work with beginners, because I'm not if I have to drag you in, I've got to drag you around.
Right.
So I only want women who are like, I'm raising my hand because I'm ready for next. I'm ready for different. I'm ready for growth. And I think, Christine, you said earlier, a lot of times when people told us about dreaming, you can't make any money doing that. You don't know that.
Right.
Because just like, you've created this podcast, and like after COVID, anybody who does not have some kind of way of generating revenue online is in trouble.
Mm.
So like the women, and that's one of the things, like some of the women that I work with, it's like, golden handcuffs or gilded cages or whatever. And they're like, girl, all of that sounds cute, but I'm not giving up these coins. How do I make or replace this money? And so that becomes the conversation in this digital economy. How do we take what we know and begin to create it in a way that serves us, in a way that maybe even not only replaces, but may exceed the revenue that we made before? And so that's the other thing, because a lot of times when people talk about what feels like spiritual things or, motivation or whatever that is, they shy away from the practicality of all of that is cute, but it's not cute if you're broke.
Mm.
Right.
And so you have to be okay with, I want to make sure that I make enough money to care for the people that I love, to live the lifestyle that I want to live, and to make a difference, because the missions that go the furthest are the missions that are funded. If you got a good heart and a good idea, no money, it's not going anywhere. So it's okay to pursue your passion, and it's okay to put a price tag on what you do and how you serve. And so I think that that's a big conversation. And again, us as women, a lot of times we don't have that conversation enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that a lot of people, a lot of women accept things that come into their lives, like you were talking about, that are, why this, why that, how come this isn't working, how come that isn't working. And for myself, I tried to take that and turn it around and say, okay, this shit happened, but it happened for a reason, for the better good. I might have wanted something, and the universe or whatever came along and said, yeah, that's not right for you. This is actually right for you. And so it made that kind of chaotic at the time, or traumatic at the time, or painful. But, and I used to look at that going, but I put so much love and energy into this. Why is this not working? And then when I learned to realize that I don't need to ask why, I just need to ask myself, how am I going to accept and be open to what comes in its place?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I totally do. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because it's all about asking more empowering questions. So like you're saying, if we're whining and it's like, well, why didn't it happen? And why didn't they do this? And da, instead of a more empowering question that says, what is this here to teach me? Who do I need to become to get to the next iteration of who I want to be? Who do I need to become to have the success that I want to have? Who do I need to become to have the impact that I want to have? Who do I need to become to have the clarity and the freedom that I want to have? And so when we start asking those more empowering questions, then first of all, just our mind, just from whether you want to do, neuroscience, epigenetics, quantum thought, manifestation, whatever it is, prayer, you can call it what you want. And yet when we call those things, even like through the scriptures say we call those things that are not as though they are. And so we're calling those things forth to us. And the first thing that we have to do is call ourselves something different. We have to call ourselves successful. We have to call ourselves lovable. We have to call ourselves healed. Whatever those things that we need to call ourselves to begin to make that transition, I just think is just so critically important. And it's so empowering because, like I said, if we say, what was my part in it? What did I do to create this? Or even what need did this fulfill? Like most of us are like, oh, hell no, I wasn't fulfilling a need. Like, no, no, I didn't need any of that. And yet, again, like what I can use for myself, I used to identify as a rescuer. That was my language.
Oh yeah, me too.
So, and like,
Me
think
too.
about it. If we identify as a rescuer, we're attracting people and situations that are a
That
mess that need to be rescued.
rescued.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting what we asked for. Give me something to fix. Give me something to
Oh,
change. Give
wow.
me something or someone to rescue. We called that into our lives. And so
Mhm.
now the same skill set that I have, the same gift that I have, the same heart that I have, I now call myself a healer.
Healer.
I call
Mhm.
I
my
do too,
Yes.
Roz.
So I call
I
myself a
switched it
healer. I
too.
call myself a doula because now, and actually people called me that first, and I said, yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
I'm going
And
to take
so
it.
I call myself that so that now I can use those gifts, I can use those talents, I can operate from my heart space in a way
Mm.
that is healthy and safe for me, as well as for the way that I want to show up and serve.
Okay, I want to touch on something that you said. You were saying, I got to rescue. I've got to rescue. There was a time in my life, in my 40s, that I was dating somebody briefly who left me for somebody that they needed to save.
Mm.
And I thought, well, shit, I got things to save. I could be saved. Why can't a guy come along and rescue me or save me? And I realized I was bringing into fruition, whatever, into my life, the life that needed to be saved.
Mhm.
Mm.
And nobody was coming along to fix that shit. And then that's when I realized, oh shit, I am the only one that can fix this.
Mhm.
I am the only one that can save me, rescue me, take care of me. And when that happened, that's when I started to realize I didn't need to save anybody. No one needed to save me. I got me. You got you. I'm going to be the healer for myself, for those who need it from me. Being a healer, Roz, isn't it special?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is really beautiful. And so I do think that women, not everybody, and there are some men that are the same way. There are people out there that either feel like they've got to rescue somebody or be
Mm.
rescued.
Mhm.
And I like being in this place, in this space where I don't need any of that. That I'm pretty damn solid,
Yeah.
where I am. And I only wish that for everyone,
Yeah.
because I think that if everyone was in that space, there just wouldn't be as much anger. There wouldn't be
Mm.
as much resentment. There wouldn't be as much, people hating people and having problems with another person. If we're content within our lives, why do we have to fool around with who cares what somebody else's life is like? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
You
it's
know,
that peace that you're finding.
exactly. And then, like you're saying too, it's that we not only do we find it, then we bring it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because now, when if we can walk into a space and shift the atmosphere,
Mhm.
because of how we already are showing up, that
Mhm.
that's the thing that begins to it start my grandmother used to say charity starts at home and spreads abroad. And
Mm.
so if we first create that peace and that space in our spaces, in our relationships, in our family, maybe in our workplaces, in our careers, whatever, it just keeps going further and further and further out. So that then if we walk into a situation that does feel chaotic, one of two things will happen. We will either leave, or we will make that space so uncomfortable that the people that are doing that will leave.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that was my space with my daughters, with my ex-husband. I wasn't the only one guilty of it, but I take my part and, accept that it was a time that I needed to learn to grow and change and find, who I was. During COVID, I got a tattoo, and it's this one right here. And it actually is literally, it's the eye of chaos.
Wow.
And
Wow.
when you gave me the name of what you thought we should name this episode, you said finding the peace within the chaos. And people look at this and ask me sometimes, what is this? And I said, oh, that's the eye of chaos. And they're like, what? And I said, think about it. What's in the what do you have to do when you're in the middle of the storm? When a hurricane or a tornado or chaos is going on, in the center is where you find the peace. So if you're finding that center of yourself and that peace within yourself, then it doesn't matter what is going on the outside.
Yeah.
It creates this calm, peaceful place in the center. And that is what that is for me. And that's why I got it. It's funny because my ex-husband made fun of me because some freaking hard rock band used this symbol on their album. And he was like, oh, do you listen to that kind of music? And I was like, oh my God, do you think I'm that shallow or stupid? For me, it was, I knew that it was time to find that inner peace. It was time to find my place for myself and do whatever I needed to do to take steps. Now, it's baby steps, right? We can't like you helping people realizing their dream. You can't just say, so what do you want? What do you dream of? Okay, let's go do it. Let's just get it tomorrow. It's not that. It's that steps, it's that rung, that ladder, that first step, that next step. How do we get there? Where do we go? Yeah.
I would love to know, what is your client, not your ideal client, because me as a matchmaker, I definitely have my ideal clients, but what is like the people that search for you? What space are they in, or how do you seek out the right people that match your energy and what you're about and what your brand is? I would love to know that.
Cool. And that's a great question. And it's so funny because, of course, what do I call them? They're my dream clients. So like, who is my dream client?
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of things. She is definitely a woman who is waiting for change. And I'll be honest, it took me a while to drill down to that, because when I first started, because I was an artist, I thought I was going to work with creatives first. You know what I mean? And then I'm kind of a dude's girl, so I thought it was going to be guys. And I still think there's a space there. And yet what I began to realize is that the woman, and I think most coaches do this, the first person who's attracted to us is the person who we were. It was the person that we came, how we overcame whatever that situation was. That's how, those are the people who are initially attracted to us. And to be really specific to your question, I actually have an upcoming masterclass called Content to Cash. And it's all about storytelling marketing. So that when you tell your story, when you tell your story in a way that is true and authentic, that will bring your client to you too. Your client will raise their hand because they see themselves in your story. And
Mhm.
so it becomes aspirational for them. So it's really easy for my ideal client to find me. And that's what I teach my clients, is how their ideal clients can tell, find them, because so many people get stuck in their story. They get stuck in the sad story rather than being able to stand on their story.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
don't have to tell your story from the mountaintop. You can be on the ascension. And yet in storytelling
Yeah.
marketing, if I'm telling a story that, like I said, my ideal client says, oh, that discomfort thing resonated with me. That golden uh, handcuff language resonated with me.
Mhm.
Fact that she went back to where she was at 21 years old when she was 60 to see
Mm.
RuPaul, by the way, just so we can throw that out there. So, the World Tour was in Paris. But, the fact that she did that and she was brave enough, and literally, I have one client, she's like one of the most corporate button down, beige and gray girls. And because my content has pictures of me in costumes and, Afro wigs, pink wigs, purple wigs, whatever, she said, you have such a freedom. And I really want to have that.
Mm.
Mm.
So if I instead was coming like talking all corporate, which I know how to code switch and do that, if I was talking that way, my true client who wants to let that creative girl within her go would never
Mhm.
find me, because I would be pretending to be something that I'm not.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so when you are speaking to your client, when you're speaking to, and be really specific, don't settle. Like, because a lot of times early on in business, we'll take a client because of the money.
Right.
Mm.
You don't want to do that, because all money's not good money. And
Exactly.
so if you have that client that sees, that this is who I want to work with, because these are the types of situations I want to create.
Mm.
These are the wins that I want to see people experience. And so then you can begin to just start telling your story in a way that they see you and say, oh, she can help me find my soulmate, because she understands manifestation, or she understands self-love. So if you're talking about self-love and
Mhm.
not settling and being the best and highest version of yourself so that you only attract the best for you because you deserve the best, well,
Yep.
that client is going to raise her hand, and or
Mhm.
and I don't know if you work with men or women. And then here's the piece: pay you what you ask for, because they
Mm.
already know that you can solve their problem. So
Yes.
that's the work that I do. And so, like, my content into Cash Masterclass is kind of an entryway
Mm.
piece for people to come into my world, learn what my process looks like, and then they can make the decision. They can make an informed decision of, oh, I want more of this, and so I want to go further with her. Or they can say, no, this is not for me. And that's the other
Mhm.
thing too. We really have to be intentional as we are about attracting. We want to be equally as intentional about repelling. We
Yeah.
let some
Mhm.
people self select out, like, no, I don't want to work with her.
I
No,
love it. I love
you
it.
know that
It's
that's how my work is, and that's how I show up in the world, so that my dream client can find me.
Mm.
I think that we can parlay that what you're saying exactly can meet and match the dating world. Everything you said,
Absolutely.
I literally thought, huh, that's how women and men should look at dating if you're looking for your partner. Because there's so many times we're accepting a date just to go on a date. We're accepting less than what we deserve or what we need to have
Yeah.
because we are just going, oh my gosh, I got to get out there.
Mm.
When we take our time, really decide what we want, what we need, what we desire in our lives, and then apply that, just like what you
Mm.
were saying with like clients. I think it's the same way with dating.
Yeah. I would agree, Christine, especially me being in the matchmaking space.
Mhm.
It's very much the same thing. And I tell people a lot of times, you attract that of which you are. So if you are not your best, authentic, beautiful self, you're going to attract that same energy. So yeah, no, this is really good. This is really good, Roz.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I think it goes back to like what we were saying earlier, like, that, well, I said, and we're all saying the same thing, that we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And so in that dating space of, who, not only who do I want, who do I need to become? Because a lot of times what we want, we ain't ready.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And it's like, okay, boo, boo.
That horrible list.
Well, what?
That horrible list.
You got to get to that place to be able to bring it and own it and live it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not being afraid. And I think this is the other thing, because I can say for myself, and it's funny, I was just talking to my mom about this evening. Like, I know that I don't ever want to be a wife again. Like, I did wife on 10. I was just like, child, they could have done us.
You're wifing it.
Yes, I was wifing with the best of it, like all of that, and did not expect that, because when I was in Paris, I had no intention of getting married, any of that. And so what I know, though, is while I'm not ready to date right now, I would be very clear on what the parameters would look like for me. What makes sense for me, what's going to be comfortable for me. And, and equally as comfortable for the other person, as long as they're not looking for a wife. If they're looking for, a companion, or somebody to spend time with, somebody, all of those things. And I'll never say never. And yet, like, that's the part that I'm clear on. So when I, again, show up fully and authentically as myself of, I love concerts, and I love classical music, and I love art, I love sports and all of those things. And I love really great conversations, and I love great wine and food. So when all of those things come up and we can have a conversation around that and just enjoy time together around that, for me, that would be what ideal would look like. And so I think that each person is there looking for whatever it looks like, because some people do want to get married, and that's lovely. And yet being really clear on what even marriage looks like, because I think it changes for everybody. And and here's the thing, there are conversations that people are not willing to have.
Right.
Those honest conversations that, with me, in my 60s, I'm not trying, and I got an adult son with special needs. I'm not trying to take care of anybody.
Right.
So I'm going to just be really honest about that. Like, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so, if you're not honest, and it's like, oh my God, you wouldn't take care of them with no. Like, I don't
peace out.
So again, having those honest and uncomfortable conversations, I think, is important.
I think so too. Well, I don't know how time flies.
It goes by so quickly.
You think 50 minutes, whatever, that's so much time. It's not enough time. Roz, I would love to actually have you back. Let's talk.
Oh, thank you.
Let's talk about another topic that is near and dear, and have you come back. I want to thank you for being here today. You're such a beautiful, shining, bright person, and your energy just exudes, and I love that about you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who came to watch and listen and be part of our show today. and we're out of time.
Yeah.
So again, same time, same place next week. Next week I will actually be on vacation, but Jada and I pre-recorded a show yesterday,
I
and
just want to prepare people. It's
we
a
laughed our
doozy.
asses off. We had a blast, and we fucking laughed so hard. So come and listen to us next week. We had a good time. But it's a fun show, and we hope you keep coming back, and we hope you come back next week. And until then, let's keep it real.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.